Imagine being fired live on air and then getting into a shootout that same night. That's exactly what happened when Game got kicked out of G Unit. Today, we're gonna be talking about this whole situation with Game, how it started with 50, and how he ended up getting kicked out of G Unit. Shout out to all the yo-yas on the east side. It's your boy KD. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it.
50 Cent was on the air with Funkmaster Flex announcing that he was dropping the Game from G Unit Records for what he saw as disloyalty. Police say that Game, who himself had been on Hot 97 earlier in the day, returned to the studios and tried to enter the building during 50's interview.
Now, before we get into the night in question in 2005, we gotta do a little digging, find out exactly where the issue between 50 and Game stems from. We're gonna start this off right when 50 drops Get Rich or Die Trying. At this time, 50 is the hottest thing smoking. Sold 11 million copies of this album. He's on fire. G Unit is the next album that comes out. Beg for Mercy comes out, also does well. Lloyd Banks comes out afterwards. Young Buck also drops an album. So G Unit is moving very well, and all of the artists under the G Unit banner are all successful. At the same time, while this is going on, Game is having a hard time completing his album, getting a single. So Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine come up with the idea to add Game into G Unit, and it was a good fit. He was the missing component. The West Side factor of G Unit was Game now. So 50 is ready to drop his album, but first they wanted him to work on this Game project. All hands were on deck to make sure that this Game project happened. So 50, being a team player, went to help Game out with his album. 50 had a couple of songs that were intended for the massacre. He muted his vocals and let Game hop on it. So 50 took time, helped Game curate his whole album. 50 was everywhere with Game, by the way. On every press release, I remember seeing 50 and Game together. The first couple of singles was always 50 and Game. So 50 did a lot to try to push this Game album and make it work. And that it did. Game's album ended up selling probably better than all the other members of G Unit. I think it sold like 5 million albums, so it did super well. But here's when problems started to erupt. So because of Game's album, The Documentary, all hands were on deck to try to help Game finish his album. But while everybody was helping Game finish his album, 50 was left to the side. Now, originally, when he was recording Get Rich or Die Trying, he had Dr. Dre basically produce the whole album. This time around, since Dr. Dre was so tied up with the documentary, he was not able to get that much Dr. Dre production. I believe it was only 2 songs on the Massacre that Dr. Dre produced, which is a crazy big difference. So I know 50 felt the way about that.
The tail was wagging the dog for a second. Dre had got creatively tied up onto the Game project, and he stayed over there, so I had to kind of go off and make my record.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's why it's like 2 records from Dre on this album.
Yeah, it's only 2 records.
You know what I mean? And I sat in Los Angeles longer than I've ever sat out. I did 4 days the last time. This time I was out there for about 2 months and 3 weeks.
Waiting to work with Dre?
And I made the records while being proactive.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I can't sit there because he's tied up on another project, and I love Dre again. But if he's confused with what direction he wants to go in after this, my next album, I have the same 20 cuts this album has on it, but it'll be sold as a double CD. It'll fulfill my album requirements for Interscope Records. That'll be the end of 50 Cent on Shady Aftermath, and I'll move forward in my career as a Shady G Unit artist.
Right. If you also look at the Massacre's original title, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, it was supposed to be slated to come out February 14th. But because of the Games project, they decided to push 50 Cent's album back to a later date. Now, you gotta really think about that. 50, who just sold 11 million copies, went diamond. They're pushing his album back. That does not happen to any top tier artist. So that had 50 feeling away. So with everything 50 did for the Game, I feel like the last straw started to break after 50 was dissing Fat Joe, Jadakiss, and Nas, and Game was denouncing even being a part of that. He wanted no parts of that drama. And 50 felt like Game was being completely disloyal after everything he did for him. Game also didn't even put him in the thank yous for the album. There was just a lot, and after all 50 did, he felt the way.
50 does a record about Jadakiss and Fat Joe. What does that mean for you?
I'm not getting in that.
You're not gonna get into that?
No. Jadakiss is a good friend of mine, and I've had a chance to meet and talk with Fat Joe on several occasions, and I think that they're perfectly good dudes.
Now here's where things get crazy. While Game is at Hot 97 with Angie Martinez, 50 Cent is at the Ed Lover Show at 105.1. Now while 50 is at the Ed Lover Show, he's literally saying Game isn't part of G Unit no more.
Where does he stand as far as G Unit is concerned right now?
Across the street or around the corner. He's not in my camp.
Not at all.
No way.
Okay.
Not after being that disrespectful.
While 50 is saying this on the radio, the Game is at Hot 97 receiving calls from fans telling him what's going on with G Unit. So we actually see Game's live reaction of him receiving the news of what 50's saying.
Who's this?
It's Tone, Far Rockaway.
What's up, baby?
I just want to know what's up with Game, what's up with him and 50. 50 talking real greasy, you know?
What exactly? What'd he say?
Somebody asked him where Game still with G Unit. He said around the block. He said across the street around the block. He said, he said next album he ain't doing nothing for you. You gonna sell like 500,000 copies.
That's what he said?
That's what he said.
Wow.
Now this is crazy. I remember being on the radio listening to this. I was switching between the two. I was like, yo, this is fucking insane, y'all. So Game is obviously tight after he hears what 50's saying. He's out blatantly coming out and saying Game isn't part of G Unit. Later that night, 50 stops by Hot 97 for Funk Flex Show. Now while he's there, he's talking about the situation with Game once again, and Game happens to pull up right when they're live on air.
Do you think Game has a problem with the relationship that you have with the rest of the team?
I think he has a problem. I think he has a problem with my position. I think he'd like to be 50 Cent. Well,
We got it.
Let's shoot.
Enough's enough?
Right now.
It's Hot 97.
Flex, sorry about that.
Hey, it's okay, fellas. Hey, it's all great.
Nigga, I had on Converse running in the snow. I must have slipped 80 times trying to get to the Escalade. We was busting real bullets. One of my homies got hit. He's still alive, and in jail. But yeah, man, like we was shooting, they was shooting. Shit was crazy. Me and 50 stared each other's in the eyes with guns drawn. Two niggas that was friends and homies, and they came up in hip hop together. And I don't even know who fired first shot. I just know we were shooting at each other. And at that moment, everything was in slow motion. It wasn't about nobody else that was there, even though I had 30 niggas with me and 50 had 30 niggas with him, man. It's almost a blessing that only one person got hit, and in the leg at that.
Shit really got real between 50 and Game. And they did do the little charity thing a few days later to dead the beef. But as we all know, that beef kept going. This is just the beginning of 50 and Game's beef. But today I really just wanted to focus on this quick moment. Felt like it was crazy. I remember being a kid listening to this. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all thought 50 overreacted? Did this even have to go down? Was Game being disloyal? Y'all let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. I'm out.